back and try the next iteration of the app. You're going to take this unsolved version, and instead of dumping the JSON, we want to turn that JSON into DOM manipulation. So where we were dumping all of that content, we want to pluck a few things, namely the movie poster, the rating, the release date, and the plot, and obviously the title. And we want to put that on a page. So no more are we just going to see a big blob of text that looks like this. We're going to see a nice, pretty output that I guess I might as well just show you, right? So you have this mental model in your head. We want to be able to see, I guess we don't see the title, which is interesting, but the rating, when it was released, and the plot, and the image. So we're turning this stuff to nice, beautiful experience. Obviously, very relevant. This is not nice. It's better than block text. So that's the next activity. You've got 25 minutes to do that. Again, if you're stuck for a couple minutes, raise your hand and I'll hear from you.
Oh, it's right above the last thing that I posted. Yeah, that's above that. And then tips and stuff.
Oh, so right, all of the code.
And this activity specifically, I think will really get a lot of assignment for this concept. So if you would then get the AJAx. Yeah, so it is different. I believe that you can go to this one. So I'd start by concept and see what that is like. And then from there, if it's going to choose comments lines ahead, I start by concept logging response. You'll be able to open up the console and see exactly what that looks like. The reason that we're choosing this function is that we have some features. You could actually call that anything. It's just they've already called this response. But that's how you do it in your HTML. This is like how we are doing it and admittedly test that. Don't think so, because it's under one. So here what they're doing is actually they're saying get that on the page. So here on so you'll find something that's already rich enough, and then you're gonna pin. That's actually But what they're doing is they're grabbing parents off the screen. So it looks like that's 2 ways to do it. That's not quite ways.
It's the best thing.
Yeah, you're up to your knees and if you're stuck, just let us know.
They're allowed 2 incompletes, am I correct in thinking that? There are some people that are in little trouble. Too.
Yeah. I'll slide.
I mean, I just grab a screen grab this and send it to Kate and be like, hey, like this is a little concerning. You know, it's yeah. Or I can send that her way. I would kind of like to say, hey, if you have an incomplete, please double check. Because there were a few people that are like, I did the wrong assignment, and I did this, or I did that. But it's like, you have to follow up. So I want to make sure people know that. And if they want to get that done, maybe give them this week and not do that, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Because the Labor Day weekend, they might have time to catch up and say, you know.
And we're having that for the
Yeah. But for like the incomplete homework, that's. Okay, that's good.
So, for this final project, after the second, we're actually going to probably communities, but we'll all have a chance to.
Oh, that's good. That's very nice.
I definitely
Okay, and just let it go.
yeah, it's not that true, so scary as far as. There is a date for it. It's like in the courts.
Okay, so they still are able to, but if it's late, that's just reflected in the grades then.
Yeah, like I believe it's a full letter grade.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, if it's like a month late, that's like. Okay, I'll have to double check.
But it definitely wouldn't hurt to reach out to it. The vaccine is a simple wrap. And that's like adding something what exactly. So it looks like we're still gonna have that product. We really sort of really do their animals in the last 5 years. But if you comment that out, it's gonna be hard for you to figure out that it's. So where you figure out the response. So then it'll.
I did that. Now, it's
So now let's go back to your.
this now it's very so this is it tells you this one as it's literally the exact same. It's just this one. I said compare break it out. It should be. Get what
So your response, response from all of this. If you have someone response got rated, it's still your just R. And again, don't even look for like, go back as because let's say you wanted to get this rock tomato value, then you the response got rating from that to this. Next to your so on line 57, you're going to create a variable, reading data, so that we start to
It pulls everything out. Alright, so we're gonna go over the review of the application. So, from the iteration that we were on prior, like with the code folded, nothing really has changed all that much at all, really. The thing that changed is the guts of display movie info. Everything else is the same, right? We're looping over the movies, we're adding the buttons, we can add some everything, and when we click on these buttons, they are going to call this function, display movie info. And before, we had a request that would take that JSON, stringify it, and dump it in a div. Now what we want to do is take that JSON response, we want to parse it. And we want to actually do some DOM manipulation, so we got to create some HTML. Does that make sense? We grab this, we create a movie div, and this is just arbitrarily named, we call it movie. This is going to be our container. It's going to hold all of the data. And then we grab that data. We're going to basically say, I want to grab this data, I want to create an element for it, and then with that element, I want to put it into my movie div. And we are going to rinse and repeat. We're going to keep doing that. So it's sort of like a little bit of a pattern, right? So this is the pattern we're going to do for each bit. We're going to store the data we want. In this case, it's the rating data. And we get to it by object or dot object dot notation. Yikes, it's almost too late for me. So response.rated, and we store that to rating. And then we, on this line, we get one, we're creating an element. In this case, it's a paragraph tag. And we're setting the text to rating, and we're doing our string concatenation. So we have a string that says rating, and then we're joining it using the plus operator with our rating, whatever came back from the response. And then we are taking this element and we're appending it to movie div. And we're just going to keep following that pattern for each chunk of data. The release date, the plot. The movie poster is going to be a little bit different because we don't necessarily, that doesn't have to be a paragraph tag, it's a movie poster. It's a what? It's an image. So that code's going to look a little bit different. But from where we are right now, how does this feel? Does that make sense? Yeah, how are you guys feeling? Thumbs up? Clarification? We are for, okay, yeah. So you feel pretty good. Is there something I can clarify?
The dot text maybe, like I'm used to append and HTML and the dot text is, I guess it's adding this to every p tag, I guess.
Well, it's adding it to this particular p tag. So we created it, and then we are, like the can and jQuery, we're chaining this dot text method to it. It's
So we're
saying,
just making it shorter.
yeah, we could do this in a couple of, we could do this like P1,
So why would you,
and that's really the same thing.
but you could also still do that like with an append and throw p tags around plus whatever.
Like the rating part.
Yeah, you can go like P space rating, put it in quotes, then that, and then
Yeah.
the append.
You could, so this is one way to do it, and the operation here is create a p tag, and then using dot text, I want to change the text, the inner text of that p tag. But you could just as easily write it all out right here. We have to modify this just a touch. But that's the equivalent.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to wrap my head around what text.
The text, let's presume that the rating is R, because those are usually the best. He's online. And let's just presume that it's R, we already have that value. So here we're just seeing like, cool, I just have a string and I type out all the HTML as I want it. The dot text represents everything I've selected. So prior, we were creating a p tag and we were saying dot text, and we were giving it the string that we want to be the text of that element. And it represents that everything I've selected here. So it's kind of like the contents of it. Now, we start thinking about instead of dot text, dot HTML. The only difference with that is we can actually write out HTML and have it be parsed. If I try to do, try to make this bold, am I going to see R be bolded? What am I going to see?
You're gonna see that. You're gonna see an ID with a very long.
Well, let's check it out.
In there.
I didn't think it would do that. Neither did I, but-
Oh, because there's a.
Oh yeah, it's in the bracket. Dang it. See, I did this so we could all learn.
You have to have quotes that then is strong and everything.
If we did it this way, this was the actual experiment. So if we text the difference between text and HTML, we'll see here. In text, HTML doesn't get parsed. If we, instead of text, we say .html, HTML will parse strong. And it will actually render the way we expect it to. So that's the difference between text and HTML. All this to say, there's a million ways to solve the problem.
And the last part of it is like, why would a pin not? Oh, because you're not targeting. You target p tags. Oh,
Well,
you'd have to put a p tag up top. Okay.
In this particular case, like we create the p tag and we're saying our target is the movie div. It's this container, and a pin is going to take whatever we throw at it, and it's going to inject it into that container, which is movie div. And it's going to inject our P1 that we created. And then we'll see, again, this kind of pattern just be used over and over again. So now we're on to the release year. Let's get the release year from the response. Let's create a new paragraph tag. And now the text is slightly different and has our release data. And then we append it. We're appending P2 to movie div. And append, we'll always put it at the bottom. If for whatever reason we wanted movie div to go above, or rather we wanted P2 to go above P1, we would not use append, we would use pre. Yeah. That would be a crazy world to live in. We do the same thing with plots. And then we get to the image. This is where things would be just slightly different. We do grab the data the same way, response.poster. But instead of creating a P tag, we're just creating an image tag. And we're changing the src, the source attribute for that image. Because again, we've got to handle it a little bit differently. We're not dealing with text here, we're dealing with an image. And then, once we've done all of that, not yet on the page, we have a movie div that has inside of it 3 paragraph tags and an image. But it isn't until we run this line on 91 on line 91, movie div has all this. It's not until we run line 94 where we actually take that div that's been stuffed with all that content, then we actually put it on the page. And if we look at this, we can see the behavior. The prepend puts it at the top, right? And can you imagine a rated R line? You didn't. I did refresh the page.
Does it show up in the list?
No.
Or does it refresh the page? No refresh the page.
Yeah, no refresh. We are manipulating the DOM.
Right. So when you click a button, like you click line game right now, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, there's nothing there, right?
Yeah, I clicked some other buttons.
Okay, so you do want to list. In my mind, clear that list.
And that's fine. That's cool too. You could clear it like by emptying the div and then doing it. This just allows you to have a log. It could go either way. I think I don't remember if the instructions are really explicit about that. Well, putting the entire movie above the previous movie, so it does.
It does that.
But yeah, we accomplish that with prepend, so that we keep stuffing movies into that movies view container, and the newest are at the top, as we would think about it, given this UI. So there's a lot of steps involved, but at the end of the day, it's just saying, give me a movie title, go grab that data, and with that data, pluck it out and turn it into some HTML elements on the page. So we're combining all that DOM manipulation that we had done previously with the ability to use an AJAx request to go get data that we didn't have and that we don't need to worry about because we just call a third party. Say, give me this data, and they give it back to you. And you can start making a page super dynamic and super, useful. I mean, I guess this is a useful application. The weather maybe might be a little more useful. But yeah, we're kind of bridging the gap between the front end and the back end. We're using these requests. And if you guys have ever heard of a single page application or SPA, have you ever seen SPA capitalized in an article? That's kind of where we're moving toward. A single page application is one where we aren't refreshing the page every time, but instead we're in fact really just manipulating the DOM. So if you think about a page having like a header and a logo and like there's an ad and you have a footer and all this kind of stuff, that's a lot of like content to a page. Instead of having to refresh the entire page, you can just change one little piece of it so that I don't have to go get that logo again or any of the other content. And when we start getting into React, all of that really gets wrapped up pretty nicely because React is kind of one of the industry kind of leaders in terms of single page applications in the sense that we aren't going and refreshing the page every time. We're simply changing the DOM based on some user interaction. So, yeah, bridging the gap between the front and the back. I think in the next maybe 2 weeks, you guys are gonna start getting into, or rather in like 2 units, I think you guys will be getting into the back end. And you're gonna be in a place toward the middle of the program where you'll be writing your own API. And then using your front end that you create to call your own API.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think we touched on Firebase next week.
Yeah. I don't know that for sure, but if that sounds right. And that's where you guys are going to be storing some of your own data and then calling it up and putting it on your page. So that allows you to persist. So imagine a page where instead of every time I refresh it, it's blank, you can start to store the results of the movies that you've already clicked. So that when you hit the page, you can see any of the other movies that have been looked at. Any questions about what we've done, any of the other activities, or even just a conceptual question? If we just think this is sort of a random question, but all this stuff here, P1, P2, is our code super clean, or could it be dried up?
Similar, you should be able to pull out, run, I guess, a function.
Mm-hmm. That like,
That's the make the P tag.
yeah, because like making the P tag, this is the same all the time except the text that goes in it. And it's always going to append it to the same movie data. So yeah, we can totally refactor code like this so that instead of having to do like 3 sets of all of this code, we could write a function and pass it just what it needs to have, which is really just the text that's going to sit in between those P tags. So we could totally try this out. There's an opportunity to make it. Cool. We have 10 minutes left. And we have another application. You're not going to get to the end of it in 10 minutes. What I'd like to do is send it to you. And you could spend the next 10 minutes kind of checking it out. I'm going to show it to you right now. And if you want to hang out in office hours, this is meant to take, I think, 20. It's an optional exercise. So you're not required to do this if you have to get out of here. But I recommend if you've got the time and the passion, go ahead and sit through it and work on it because it's just going to reinforce all of these ideas. And this application is not movies, it's music. Oh, cool. So we were going to be using a new API called Bands in Town. And you would choose an artist, you hit go, and then it gives you, and I've been big in this, so it's huge, but it gives you a link that takes you to this band's like detail page on the Bands in Town website. Anyway, it sends you here, and you can see all these concert dates. But the rest of the page looks like the cover for this band. It tells you how many fans are tracking it, and then that there are 15 tour dates coming up. And then you can see tour dates, which actually takes you to the same page that this does. But this is the application. It's just calling out to Bands in Town, which is an API that when you pass it the name of a band, it will pull back a lot of data, and we're just going to parse little bits of it and then put it on this page. Again, the network panel is so fussy, you have to have it open. Somehow found my way into liking a lot of M bands. So we see a Facebook URL. I'm sorry. Donna. Oh yeah. We're not using everything, but we are using most of it here. But we're just taking this data and parsing it in much the same way that we did with our OMDB. So if you so desire, this would be a great way to lock in all these concepts. You'll notice that all of this stuff is pretty, they just kind of look like jurors. But this is not a pretty page, but it works. So it's up to you if you want to do it, but I highly recommend if you got the time. stick around. That's it, unless anyone has any questions. You guys did really, really well tonight. Again, if you don't understand all the syntax and stuff, don't beat yourself up. Be patient and be kind to yourself. If you understand the concept that we're making these requests and we're taking that data that we get back and we're just using DOM manipulation to add some things to our page, you're sitting pretty. These are the things you need to understand. The syntax and all that stuff will just come with time and familiarity, which again is why if you have the time, I recommend sticking around. Otherwise, at home, try that hands in town exercise. It'll lock these things in really well, and it's just like the activity we just did. So if you have to reference that code again, it's right there for you. All right. Well, thanks, y'all.
I mean, it is exactly like my just did. Like 100%. You got some good copy. Like it's.
Yeah, but even though you can copy and paste, I would recommend always type the part one. I mean, that's hard sometimes. You've done a lot of work.
I can't type it. Trying, and I'm like, I can't type. I'm just not one thing. I have to go back and figure it out.
Yeah, you type too much stuff, yeah, it's like really like.
My brain
But
burns.
that's not capitalized.
Yeah.
I don't have the attention today. I feel that. It's going down.
Well, it's not good. It's a lot of stuff that, you know, like that's a long homework. Yeah, same stuff. Very similar. Text thing. I was like, oh, that's stuff. What I get it now. But like, you know, it's something that I was like, I don't get it. I don't like using HTML. I don't know what I'm gonna get out.
I mean, that's
Part
part
of
of
it,
it.
a lot of times,
You were hungry.
especially
If you're hungry, you're just gonna go home.
you don't know what you're gonna get.
No, yeah, you have it.
You're not gonna get it wrong, whatever it is.
It's gonna make it home.
I mean, I don't have a problem with having a reason to talk about.
Yeah, no. It just wouldn't make
I
up.
watch a lot of those.
Yeah,
A lot of videos on
but yeah, at the end, it's when, bring all the content, and you're putting it all together to build something that people want. To me, that's the exciting, but to me, all.
You were requested a video structured video.
Yeah, I work my way through the.
I need to do another one.
It's like, I'll just work my way through it. And it kind of simplifies things.
Yeah. Codes, yeah.
All the.
And I think AJAx is just a big one, it's a lot.
This one down.
I'm like, all this is like
Yeah.
website small.
Totally, yeah, repetition.
But
That's what we get it.
Yeah, wait for it. No, actually.
Right in there.
Yeah, hang it in there. This is really great.
It's the JSON spit out today. Oh, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, people go.
I look up and I'm like, everyone's gone.
School's out, man. Gotta go home.
Ah, yeah. Or maybe.
Oh, wait.
How you doing?
That's like almost my same backpack.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
See, that's more, see,
They're like the same.
if I showed you a picture of my caving pack from like 12 years ago, you'd be like, it's almost identical. It's actually, I think ours might actually be real nice here.
So you're caving.
Yeah.
You do
So
like
it's like
spelunking?
yeah.
Nice.
We've done the largest pen in the United States and largest rooms.
Cool.
The only way you
I think we were
the
like-
only way you can get into them is through the ceiling. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah, imagine a place where you're on rope and you cannot act, light
At some
can
point,
actually,
we're gonna really
light is so far away that your light cannot hit it.
Yes.
Hit anything around.
Yo, that's
So you
me.
just have the rope up.
That's me driving from Tulsa to Kansas City on the highway and not the interstate. And I turn the high beams on and they see nothing, and I'm in a tunnel of corn.
But the craziest thing is, I always like to tell people this is that, like in the deepest pit, so 600 feet deep, and from each beam in the cave, there's a cloud line that happens 3/4 of the way up.
Just your breath.
There's like clouds.
So you know where they weren't
When
there.
you went down, they weren't there. On your way up, you kind of passed through this thing where you're like, it's this white
Wow.
from where everyone's like breathing.
So it rains in there. If you have enough people in there, it'll rain.
Oh, I know. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I'm saying, but yeah, like you can probably make it rain inside of this place. If you make it a cloud.
It's already wet. Like, I don't think it's.
I'm not saying you want it to rain. I'm just saying that like
clouds, I mean like just
you have like a mist that's gathering.
like a haze.
Yeah.
A cloud would be.
I'm sure you can still make it rain. I'm just saying you could probably make it rain inside, which would be cool.
How you doing on all this?
I gotta really start taking the time to redo the activities that we did. I gotta start from last week. Like it's important to like physically do.
Read through all of
Like I'm not kidding. Yeah, like helping you out a lot.
That's how my brain thinks. Before we store, create, whatever the split. I need something else.
Give it a shot. Give us a shot. Just give people time.
Yeah.
Then also do all of this, and I guess, one way first, then let me be cruiser to bring all the other.
But the thing about that is that every person in this class probably has one way that makes better sense to them. And like what makes better sense to me might not be makes better sense to you. We're introducing, all the different ways up the hill, or a few, not all of them.
Yeah.
Because you might find that one way just clicks and the other way is like, what?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? I appreciate more black and white code myself. So I'm also pretty not great, and I appreciate there to be a right or wrong answer. Like, this gray area is not fun for me. But JavaScript, it's all gray. The whole thing is gray. So there is no right. There's never going to be almost never is there a just completely black and white answer.
Or just like,
There's often a lot of answers. Yeah. And like, looking after you are working on an assignment, it's not looking for solves and like pulling it back apart. There's nothing wrong with that. Especially like maybe pulling out the solves and helping you figure it out tonight, and then tomorrow trying again without it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you can see the solves and like think like oh, I get what's happening there, that's huge. Like,
Ow, I feel like such a failure.
because that's the beginning of understanding. Like, the fact that you can recognize what it's doing, that's like the step right before doing it. I promise. Yeah.
I'm stuck on steps for the syntax don't.
Yeah, are we seeing it all anymore? Or probably, unless they need you, I don't sure.
So we had less than.
Well, and you know, when it comes to the typical free coding, where someone just takes like a screen and just like types, I would say none of our instructors they all utilize documentation, resources. Yeah.
You know, I know if you're like,
Ever
outside of like instructor.
Okay, and I'll be there at the end, so if you like, make that in there, so good for you. Yeah.
That's Asia.
Oh, yeah.
That was something.
I will definitely mention that to our people. But when you are in your like weekly survey, say that I want to see more live code. I want to see your refactor code in the dryer.
I mean, he's done that stuff.
But also, he's super nice. We were just literally like, will you do this? Will you make it drier and show us what that looks like?
You don't say, hey, when you get all the answers, right?
Yeah. But this is what I think, and like there's so much to cover, like today in class, you couldn't see me, but I was back there like, yeah. We wanna make sure we get everything in and don't miss out. That's where I sat at, so,
Really?
yeah.
Okay, I feel halfway better.
Yeah, man, you're doing great.
I'm off tomorrow, so tomorrow's my call.
You've got the tenacity. That's like the biggest part.
Probably not, because you still wanted to display that, but you just want to check and see if that's displaying. It is displaying, if you don't.
But the more you do it, yeah. See it.
So there are a few ways that you can say, you can have a little, bit.
That's the right.
So you're right. So if it is
Well, I mean, certainly
so if you had that.
crammed, but we got it all.
Yeah.
We got to it all anyway, to a degree.
Class seemed to go really well.
You're like, okay, if
Yeah, I think people
check.
are getting it.
If
The syntax part's always
true,
hard. When I was talking to
then
here, but
don't.
In front,
yeah,
Max.
I thought it was Max, but it felt wrong because Max,
Right.
thinking of the TA,
So
so.
you can set yourself something outside
but,
of it, a global variable that
I think he
says,
gets
hey,
it. I think
this
it's
function
easy though and natural
you
to
must reset that later.
be thinking about all
You
the
can say, hey,
movements
if
and
that's
stuff.
true, we don't fire it again, or if
And it
it's
takes
false,
some
so things like
practice
work
to
be
get
like,
into that mindset of
if
breaking it down
false,
into small little chunks.
Yeah. He's, when looking at his homework, it's incredible. He is truly making
and so
improvements every day.
have that function on the bottom, so your function down here, so if you
Several
have
hours
this
a day, just
function
looking at
false,
commit history.
or this variable false, your function,
It is
that variable is true.
definitely, like every time you get something working, commit, just like have it there so you can go back.
So he actually asked me a question when we were done, that stumped me,
You know,
pretty hard, and then we're going back and refactoring my old
whatever happens in
assignment
your code happens.
to figure out his answer.
That
But, you had told him that there was a way to dynamically append those buttons. How do I do this? How do I do it?
I don't care how many times you run that.
And I was so close to getting the syntax there without looking it up, but I wasn't.
You're checking to see if.
I had to be like, I'm not sure right now. Like, I
Yeah.
don't have the answer this second. But
Probably
next class, I got it.
Yeah.
Like if.
And that's,
Good.
yeah, that's a
Like
cool
if
thing to
whatever
model too,
variable is
'cause you
true,
can't always
then
be certain.
run it and then make a false or whatever. You just need to switch and flip on or off, just check and make sure.
Yeah,
that it's-
totally. And
if you
I mean,
want
like with my experience level of project building, I mean,
Yeah,
so I don't give myself that
good,
expectation.
yeah, I still don't give myself that expectation,
Oh,
because
you put it in.
it's just way too much to know. And like, oh yeah, oh, and I was doing the strong thing with the reader.
So that's gonna be
Engineers, no, I didn't read
That's
that.
actually
It's like,
clear.
I'm still,
I
thought I was doing something else.
Yeah.
That's your, that's the. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is an exciting piece, I think you guys are
So you want to statement outside of.
close by like a week or two for the two projects.
Yes,
So,
so,
Inside is like,
this
so
is correct, next week we're doing AJAx, and then the week after that.
So it's gonna,
Cool.
it's gonna wrap around all of
Dang.
this.
What's interesting about Firebase
So-
that I saw in their curriculum updates
Because
is
you're
that
not,
they are,
what's gonna happen is you gotta check and see.
and when they do that, they think of like into September, which they keep pushing it back, so I kind of think, well, probably not. But, they are actually gonna, what they're replacing it with, they said they were gonna do Firebase.
So he's be like, if
So,
whatever
it's interesting.
variable you eventually set up there is true, then do this. And if it's not,
I-
then do that, then change or whatever.
My, I guess, only complaint when it comes to curriculum is I was really shocked at how little time we would have react.
Well, they are changing that too. I think the feedback a lot,
Yeah,
because it's a big piece and it brings together so many important concepts. And it's just like very popular. Like to know that well
Yeah.
is almost not guaranteeing you, but it is like
So we'll.
strongly, probably
You know
a
where you're
factor of getting a job. Um,
totally.
but they are doing 3 weeks in this new curriculum.
Cool.
They're mixing the regional content that we did see.
That's amazing, great.
So, yeah, because they did not keep that super up to date. And anyway, so that was always, in my experience, which was the one time was scary. So they're getting rid of that. They're gonna offer it. So they'll give students access to like that content, but it would be done in their own time, in their own exploration. So yeah, they'll hop in every week React, and they're gonna be covering like React hooks, and I think getting into things a little bit deeper. I don't know to what degree, but
That's great.
they've been hinting at that stuff in this next big update,
Yeah.
which I think is the way to go, because it's helpful. Like that C# thing is helpful, but I think in terms of like what you get out of the class and having instructors
See if that's
help
helpful,
you,
and then.
that going over next week in React is way more beneficial, I think, than like in my case, sort of me stumbling through this. Yeah.
Well, and from my point of view, at that time, we were about to go into the final project. We were just starting this, and we had just, we were coming to the end of the course where we learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript, a very large stack of things.
Yeah.
And so I kind of tuned that week out, because it's like, I need to focus on the skills I've been building and continue growing those to
Yeah.
work on this project, but that it seemed like it wasn't
But then do this.
beneficial for me to divulge away from.
Yeah, like it wasn't really aligned with like the incentive. Like, the incentive is, or I don't know if that's the right word, but like chill out project. Like that is what you care about. That's a big grade. So why do I care about this right now? And especially coming off the heels of React, where that's a project requirement. C# VC framework, not a requirement. So I got the sense that some people were
It's already run. You're not even changing it.
Yeah.
It's true.
And it's interesting, my girlfriend was in SAS, and so she graduated about a year and a half ago, like 2 now. And I know some handful of SS grads pretty well, and it's very interesting what the different curriculum is.
So the reason why we
They
did
started with front-end frameworks.
like, how much memory?
whatever works there,
Or just do things,
and then they go into
so
that.
we'll need to just like a.
So this whole time, I was thinking, there's not all to be right? Completely wrong, I was just waiting to react in the beginning.
Every type of.
It was odd, but I don't know, I wonder if there's a reasoning to do it one way or the other. One would be more beneficial. React is what I left the class feeling by far the worst. And I'm gonna work on it, good, but
Yeah,
like,
we only spent the 2 weeks on it. It was the last thing in, basically.
yeah.
So everything else up until that point, you probably learned, well, you definitely learned, but then you had the opportunity to use and reuse. React didn't have, where it fit into the program, just didn't have that opportunity. It was like, here's this new stuff, and that's always the stuff that you don't feel that comfortable with. Now use it in your final project. It's like, okay. Yeah, it's kind of interesting where it sits, but I hope that that third week
Well, this doesn't change the
gives
check.
people
This is
that, a
where you
little
set
bit
it.
more of that repetition piece.
In
That
your program,
doesn't
set
feel
it up.
quite as like, I just don't get this.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people felt something after the second week.
But, so it's like, has this run? No, it hasn't run.
Yeah, it's interesting because
Checking has this
in
run.
SS, I think they have like 2 ways to go through it.
It has,
You can do,
Yeah, so.
The full-time 6 month, they're like a year.
yes.
And the year, so they're actually spending twice as much time in the classroom, if not more than that. Their full-time 6 month program is Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And their part-time is a full year, it's like 2 nights, and like all day Saturday. Actually, personally, for me, the only reason I didn't go to NSS was it was a time commitment, which is unrealistic for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like a great program, and I don't
Yeah.
have any like negative, really comparisons overall. Just like that was the one big thing that stood out for us.
Yeah, that's where Max went. Yeah, it's very project based. Like they throw you into it.
They don't have grades at all.
Like, oh,
So there's a few things about the program that I do think is like, I mean, if you're gonna do a real comparison, but I think I'm pretty negative. Like I think when it comes to upholding standards of students, I don't, my understanding is like, there are no requirements that you actually finish. It's just AJAx. So we're actually great. You just have like 2 projects. So that's interesting.
yeah,
And it seems like career services for them, comparing Brooke's experiences to mine, career services are way more advanced. I feel like my materials at the end of that process were
Yes.
polished.
That would be amazing.
like walking out.
Yes.
You got a portfolio.
So
And
I don't know if it's really good, but as a student, there's like a whole other like branch of milestones that are like creating a brand statement and making a resume. There's 5 different materials that they talk about.
On the career services side of the street.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's like a cover letter,
Generally, you're.
coming out with like some basic ones, getting your LinkedIn so that it meets their requirements. And so yeah, they really give you a lot of feedback back and forth. I've always considered myself a fairly mediocre writer, and I am shocked how much I went back and forth.
Manage your complication, that's through it. That's good, that's all good.
That's a skill that
All this other stuff will go.
I was like terrible at,
Uh-huh.
but it's looks 20 times better than I could have done on my own.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I was given a lot of support in that. And then once you get cleared as an employer competitive,
Mhm.
then you have access to like whiteboarding videos and
Wow, so they really, you go through the hoops, and then they have this other like area where you can go deeper into like once you're competitive, it's essentially like, could you get an interview? And once you've met that, it's like, here's what you do in the interview.
so you actually have access to it for 6 months after you graduate, to like multiple times a week. There would be like maybe behavioral interview questions or whiteboarding and like topics that they recommend.
Are these like sessions you attend?
Yeah, like online sessions. And then they have monthly film shows where you can, like, the one last month, AJAx competition. And, what is last month? Picked the winner, and the winner got, like, this.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's a really shocked. I didn't either until I got to the end, and I was like, man, nobody, like,
Like with these,
said
it's like
anything about this.
Yeah.
But it was a pleasant surprise. The amount of resources that are there. But
Yeah, I mean, that's a big
It is
deal.
like,
It's hard enough to go through the program, to finish it, then you get on the other side of it. It's like, what's next, you know? To have that support and have a sense of like someone helping set expectations for what it will be like is very, very helpful.
Yeah.
So you were kind of saying like, as a compared to NSS, there was less of that career service.
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually,
as long as it ends up
NSS, I guess, is known for students who do great brain so for resumes. And Brooke feels like that really about 2 months after graduation, she scrapped that rainbow resume and got a lot of responses after she went back to what.
Bright and colored, literally.
Literally, they want them to be colored.
Interesting.
And
And so she nixed that and went to like a more kind of formal.
yeah, and had more success in that.
Interesting.
So, and they could have just been luck, who knows? But
Yeah.
it was she felt like the responses she was getting.
It's weird. It's like an acting a headshot. Like you, I mean, even if they don't turn it over and look at your resume as an actor, it's this really weird thing of like, oh, cool, so this is my face. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Like if someone was just looking at a resume and saying, this is really like colorful.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, and if when it comes to physical appearance and getting hired, there's a really fascinating articles and statistics about that specifically. I read one the other day about specifically female attractiveness and in percentage, essentially the more attractive that you're perceived by your employer, according to this Forbes article, the more likely it is that they will pay you higher.
This is beyond acting. This is literally just like
life.
How HTML has.
And so, and this is like getting a little further. Me personally, I
So if you look at all of our
feel
files.
that I feel I could wear a dress, I could wear like some real baggy jeans and like a cyber Facebook cap. Like it depending on my mood, like how I present myself, pretty drastically changes. And how the world as a whole treats me and like interacts with me is like
wow.
and
And that's just like
So you're like, this is version 2 and version.
it's like just the way it works. Like society
how
is
I
like
choose to present myself will
Yeah.
absolutely determine how people choose to interact with me. And in some ways, you can really use that to your advantage. Like for me in a kitchen setting, I found that the more masculine I looked, the more control I had. Always. And so in a professional kitchen setting, I always was like, no makeup, hat on, very masculine presentation. Coming in with a more feminine presentation of not with the same respect position. And yeah, it's so.
it's like engendered like
It has a little way to annotate it.
first
that way if you
impressions.
want to.
Yeah, but I think it goes beyond gender to like how you perceive someone as being like attractive or wealth or
Yeah, it's like status, which all those things like wealth and attractiveness sort of
But you don't have to.
project
put things
status
type in there,
in some way.
whatever you
That we just there's a book
How
called
you to do it, then you have to just.
I think it's just called Ishmael, and they talk about that. It's a really kind of weird book, but it's meant to be kind of like an allegory of a guy gets just wants my dad for a student. The teacher wants a student. He shows up, and the teacher is a gorilla, and it's very weird in that regard because like how does this work? This gorilla's talking, but he lays out all these kind of like what is really the sort of peeling back like society, the things we think of as culture, and making you evaluate them in a really plain, simple way that makes you just totally see everything in this just light, and he talks about, Newton, that apple fell from the tree. He said, oh, isn't that interesting? Like, he observed this thing happen and derived from that there must be some force bringing it down. And then through observation, we have the law. Through observation, we have the laws. Observable things. Rarely do we make the same kind of observation and then come away with like an understanding about what we just observed.
Wherever your portfolio
When it
is.
comes to culture, you would say mother culture
I would
is
say keep.
ever buzzing in your ear.
And that a little bit.
Before you're born, you're just inundated with all this information that is so much that we don't ever try to parse it or ask like, what am I getting? What message am I getting from
We
this?
can cover that.
If I was to sit back and analyze it scientifically, and things like what you're describing are exactly that. We sort of become indoctrinated without even realizing it on some of these
Well, no,
things
they're
that
trying
like
to make it should make.
aren't fair.
It's
That really don't have the meaning we think. Just because someone like looks a certain way doesn't mean that they will be or won't be good at their job.
Yes,
And the thing that we probably care about most in the job is like, are they good at their job? But it's not until you like, to really
refresh, like.
sit back and think about that. And I think collectively as a society, we're doing a lot of that. Some people are like, politically correct, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I think in the way we're evolving consciously.
Better your work
Some people are gonna come kicking and screaming, or never at all. And then other people are gonna say, this makes so much sense.
Eventually you're gonna have someone.
How could it even be that 10 years ago we were saying these kinds of things?
Yeah. And for me, it's something that's like
That's better on
I guess I've always thought it was like a tool rather than control. Like it's just an extra tool in my tool belt of maybe someone's opinion
Presentation.
or like how I choose to present myself. Like in different environments, different ways will get me better results. It's just a tool for engineering my outcome.
Totally. It's so weird because my wife, she'll point out things what are effectively like implicit biases,
So all
and
stuff,
especially
reset that
like
game.
recently, the last
There are all
couple
those
of years,
variables,
just
reset them.
some of these things like you're describing, like
Oh,
the experience of a woman in what is effectively like a man's world,
Yeah.
and being like brought up to that face to face, and being like,
Cool.
Why am I doing
that's
this?
never been my experience. Like, I would definitely think.
Because
that
hard
if
things
you're
are more
rags,
rewarding
like,
than-
you're probably not gonna be very
But you're not going to be proud of yourself if you don't climb the mountain, man. It's like you have to, and then you'll know, and then you'll like, I don't know, then it won't be that hard. Like my favorite comment was actually from one of the guys who he presented at the thing I went to this weekend, and
Yeah, I'm just like.
his whole
coming to a lot
like,
of those realizations.
because the program I'm learning is not easy by any means.
It is.
But he like wrote on the board, he's like, hard things are hard until they become
There's no
easy.
effort there.
And,
They don't
like,
even
it's
make
like,
you see that.
That's exactly right.
And then when I
That is incredibly
say,
true.
like,